Live from 6 News, the station on your side. This is The 7.
Good evening, I'm Bo Williams, and welcome to The 7. Let's get a look at the big 7 stories right now. And topping the list for us tonight, election season has come to Tennessee. It is day one of the state's early voting period. From your local election headquarters, you can tell there's a presidential race on the ballot. Just take a look at these lines. This was the view from an early voting spot in Farragut this morning. Lines were out the door at the downtown West early voting site as well. There, we caught up with Knox County Election Administrator Chris Davis, and with a 19-year-old woman voting in what she described as her first big election.
When I saw the line outside, I was pretty worried just because I'd never been in something that's so important, and political advocacy is just a really big thing, and so I was a little worried about, being able to make my contribution. But once I got here, got in line, I saw how nice everyone was. I felt more comfortable with it.
Good weather, good turnout, relatively short ballot, which really helps us. We're certainly hoping, and I think that most voters who come in this early generally are, they've done their homework, but you have a few that haven't, and so that's probably my biggest message to voters is do your homework on this ballot, make it shorter than it could be if you don't.
Also out at the downtown West early voting site, we found Democratic Senate candidate Gloria Johnson casting her ballot.
Don't let it be a deterrent. I think a lot of people wanted to be here early on the first day, and I think that's why we have a longer line. I hope they stay like this the entire time, but maybe middle of the day, something like that. But what people need to do is make a plan and come and vote, and make sure you plan for enough time. I don't expect lines like this all the time, but it's good to see, and I'd be okay if we needed to expect lines like this the whole time. The more people participating in our democracy, the better it's going to be.
Of course, Johnson is up against incumbent Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn. We checked her campaign, and her campaign says the senator plans to vote in Williamson County, but we're not sure exactly when. But today we did see Blackburn post on social media also encouraging voters to take part in the early voting process.
I cannot believe it, but yes, early voting starts today. Get your vote in early. Don't wait till the last minute. You get busy, you forget, something happens. Early voting starts today. The polls are open. Be there.
Most Knox County early voting sites are open until 8 o'clock tonight. Keep in mind, though, other days and in some locations you will find different hours. Early voting, by the way, runs through October 31st, along with the presidential race. You'll see Tennessee's Senate race on your ballot, plus local races, as well as some questions. Now, one example here in Knoxville, the decision on whether to amend the city charter to change how voting works for city council seats. State law is requiring the city to get rid of its current system where votes start with district-only primaries, then advance to a citywide general election. The proposed change, backed by a majority on city council, would make all seats at large, meaning citywide voting at both stages of the election process. A new apartment complex coming to downtown Knoxville that will have a number of affordable units. We're told City Summit will be built on West Vine Avenue, where the Carpenters Union building currently sits. Last night, City Council voted to approve a pilot or payment in lieu of taxes for development company Lawler Wood. This is a tax incentive that encourages builders to redevelop certain parts of town and requires a number of affordable units. City Summit will be an 89-unit apartment complex that will have 9 workforce housing units. These units are meant to house downtown workers so they can live closer to their jobs. Darian Howard owns a boutique in this old city and says that she and her family struggle to find somewhere to live that would be close enough to her business.
It doesn't feel as friendly for the family scene, so it was really hard actually moving back and then we ended up having to find a rental and just finding an area that we felt was close enough that we could get down here because my husband and I both work down here.
The pilot will last 9 years, in which those 9 units would be restricted to people who make 80% of the area median income. This building will be torn down to make way for the new construction, which, by the way, is expected to start this week. The project is expected to be finished in the next 2 years. Now to a 6 on your side crime alert for you tonight. Knoxville Police are asking for your help as the department investigates a shooting that happened Sunday night. Take a look at your screen here for a moment. We're going to show this to you. Knoxville Police say shots were fired from this SUV, which could be a GMC Yukon. This happened in the area of Lakeside Street and Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue. KPD says the shots were fired at another car, which we're told also was shooting at the SUV, and that a man who was outside his home at the time was shot in the leg. Now, if you know anything about this SUV, you are asked to please call the East Tennessee Valley Crime Stoppers. The number is 865-215-7165. Police, by the way, say the other car believed to be involved in the exchange of gunfire has already been found, and that the two people who are inside have been detained for questioning. The man accused of shooting a 24-year-old woman in South Knoxville is in custody this afternoon after turning himself in. The suspect, Arian Burks, has been in jail since last night. As we reported, the incident happened Friday at a Casey's convenience store on Chapman Highway. Burks is charged with 2 counts of attempted first-degree murder and 4 counts of aggravated assault. We're told the victim was critically injured in the incident. A Detroit man has now been arrested in connection with an investigation into a series of suspected overdose deaths. They happened in the Lonsdale area last year. KPD says 57-year-old Sean Johnson was taken into custody yesterday after a search warrant was executed on West Oldham Avenue. We're told that search warrant also turned up cocaine, heroin, 2 marijuana plants, and more than $17,000 in cash. Police add that while the warrant stemmed from an investigation into overdose deaths, Johnson has only been charged with maintaining a dwelling for drug purposes, as well as other drug charges. Detectives say they continue to investigate criminal activity that could be connected with the West Oldham address. We'll, of course, let you know what they find. Tomorrow, Blount County Commission set to vote on a resolution that, if passed, would call on the state legislature to pass a new law dealing with teachers and child sex crimes. Some Blount County leaders want teachers who are found guilty of charges related to sexual or abusive behavior toward children to lose their state certification or licensure, as well as their retirement funds. We'll be sure to let you know if the resolution passes and if your lawmakers discuss it. Now, we're told this all stems from the investigations into Joseph Dalton. Dalton was arrested back in January. He recently entered a guilty plea to 5 counts of offensive touching. He is expected to be sentenced for those 5 counts coming up in November. Well, we're learning more about what the tremendous rainfall totals from the remnants of Helene have done to East Tennessee's environment. And if you need evidence of the power behind that rain, look at that shot right there. What you just saw behind me was a man's cabin that was swept away in the Nolichucky River. Today, we're finding out that flooding has caused significant changes to the river itself. Experts say there have been multiple shifts where silt and sand deposited and stripped it away. Now, at some points in the Nolichucky, the river's flow was 160 times higher than normal. A map by the Climate Office at ETSU shows differences in the Nolichucky River before and after the flooding. Jubal Rowe and Jerry Reed are on Kingsport's fire and rescue swiftwater team, and they say recent flooding brought aggressive rapids that they've never seen before.
We were in Bumpus Cove last week, and several feet of silt in one part of the bend, and then you look across the river and that land has been completely stripped, and so you've got some areas where they've lost several feet, maybe 5-10 feet even.
Water quality sampling will take place soon, and more imaging and tests are also being done to see exactly how much the river has changed.